Assalamu alaikum. In the name of Allah, King, the person of Master Farad Muhammad, I bear witness there is no God but Allah. I bear witness that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is his last and greatest messenger. And we, the 13 Revolution family, can never thank Allah enough for raising up in our midst our teacher, the Honorable Minister X. I greet my brothers and sisters once again of the 13 Revolution family with the green words, peace of Assalamu alaikum. It is my pleasure, my humble honor, to be here once again as a student of the message and teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and as a person invested and committed to the idea, the thought, and eventually the material fruition of building a nation within a nation and eventually a nation of our own. Brothers and sisters, for me, being a follower of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, I know a lot of times people would like to place you in a box. So they would say that you need to just teach the teachings of the messenger, stick to that and nothing else, and you cannot, deal with people outside of that dynamic. You cannot deal with people outside of that paradigm, that construct. And for me, that's a false understanding of what any teacher taught. I believe in the bringing together of black people of the same thought and ideology, as long as we're all thinking about having something of our own, whether it be here or elsewhere. So to me, I look for that common thread in the thinking of many brothers and sisters, because you want to know something, you may think your brother who wears the same colors as you, your sister that wears the same colors as you may think that they're on your side in something that you're thinking of and trying to bring into reality, and you come to find out that they're not. And so for me, I am a person that, a couple of years ago, a light went on in my head, and I realized that above and beyond religion, above and beyond tradition and culture, that we as a people, we need to really focus on skill building amongst black people and for the express cause and purpose of contributing to the material building of what my dear brother holism refers to as infrastructure. And I think that even though many of us talk about this and some of us are actually doing things to bring this about, there's not a whole lot of unity and cohesiveness in this talk, because we all still believe that the bottom line is that if you're not a Muslim, that you can't work with me. If you're not a Hebrew, you can't work with me. If you're not a Christian, you can't work with me. If you're not a Pan-African, you can't work with me. And to me, the umbrella, the common thread has always been infrastructure. So the title of today's show is going to be it's going to be tribalism versus Pan-Africanism. And we're going to discuss a lot of different ways in which we've been separated as a people. I thought that a lot of my brothers and sisters from the organization would be here today, but it seems as though we only have one at this particular time. So let me see who we have with us today. Caller from 347.
This is Brother Hollop.
Oh, peace and love, brother. How you doing?
How you doing?
Everything is good, my brother. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm glad I was able to, because I work at night, so I want to, go to bed early so I can get up in time to do this show, because I really think it's an important topic.
I do too, my brother. I do too. This is actually a brainchild of yours, even though I agree with it. So can you please tell the listeners what we're talking about? And I'm going to try to draw some more people to come through.
Sure. I put some posts in the group too, so we should have some callers pretty soon. But it's all centered around, I think that we've elevated discussion to nationhood. And so now, instead of us concentrating on the trivial, we're concentrating on, I call it the meat and bones of the situation, which is, well, what type of nation? Where are we going to have this nation? The discussion is centered around nations. So I'm happy with that. But at the same time, I'm kind of frustrated because it seems like I always try to find ways to explain things as simply as I can. And maybe due to, a deficiency on my part, maybe I haven't been able to do it properly. I mean, that is possible. But I've tried every way, every configuration to try to get the point across how this is not really rocket science. This is something that I think could be understood from the baby out the womb to, the elder going into the ancestral realm. I don't think that this is difficult. And we keep trying to make our nationalism seem like it's some alien creature, you know? Like, we see it every day, but we see it from other ethnic groups. We
Right.
see it from other nationalities. But when we turn that around and try to apply it to ourselves, then everybody gets confused. And that's the thing that's confusing to me. Because a lot of people who fight against nationalism, like I've had people debate me on, well, you're talking about nationalism and this and that. But those same people would turn around and use nationalist ideology as tactics and strategies to try to fix our situations. I'm like, well, wait a minute. I'm confused. You're saying we shouldn't have a nation, but yet you're trying to get socioeconomic and political control over your community. It just seems to me like there's a lot of ideological quicksand going on.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it's like things are being thrown into the mix to confuse the people, and I want to make it as simple as possible for the people. So,
well, can you tell me, like, what are some of the arguments against? Because that sounds just bizarre to me. What are some of the arguments against nationhood? Like, I don't understand how people could be. How could you be anywhere outside of the normal black paradigm, and then you're against us having a nation? I don't understand that.
Because they have I call it like Fox News tactics. What happens is it's like a monkey throwing feces against a wall just to see what sticks, and like so people react to buzzwords. So when they hear anything having to do with nationhood or Pan-Africanism, it sets off a buzzword in their head, and they can have a negative reaction depending on their brainwashing.
Right.
So anything that's black, like if you put that black in there, or if it's black-centered or African-centered in any way, people tend to have a negative connotation about it. I call them militant integrationists. That's the term I use. It's like you can always tell a militant because those are the people who try to act like they're for black people or black issues, but they don't really support black ideology. Which I don't know how they do it, but that's a strange thing to pull off. But a lot of people manage to do it. Like they don't want to pigeonhole themselves by just being centered on black folks, but at the same time want to represent black people.
Right.
Which
okay,
is
so can
insanity to me.
Right. Oh, here comes Colin. Can you, and I'm going to get his view also, can you give me your view on tribalism?
Right. Wait, say that again, I didn't hear you.
I'm sorry, I said, can you give me your view on tribalism?
Tribalism is what's going on the continent and what's going on in our community. We've separated into cliques and crews, and we don't see each other as a global people. We see each other as different. So if you're and we also identify with the strangest things. Like people identify themselves with their religion. Like I'm a Christian. What does that even mean?
True.
True. When you ask somebody who are you, it seems to be a strange thing to say I'm a Christian.
Mm.
That's just what you practice. That's not who you are.
Right.
So we identify with and associate ourselves with things that don't really represent who we are as a people. So we see each other as separate. Like I had a conversation on YouTube just recently where a guy said that he was against Pan-Africanism because black people don't have the same culture. We all have different cultures. I'm like, and I replied to him and I said, I defy you. I dare you to show me how African culture is different.
Okay.
And I knew I had him in a trap because most people think that cultural expression is culture. So when they talk about culture, they talk about food, clothing, traditions, rituals, and stuff like that, as if that represents culture.
Right.
And to me, that's like saying that your reflection in the mirror represents, that's you. No, it's a representation of you.
Right.
Because culture is people. Amos Wilson said that. Without people, there is no culture. So don't give me some food. So because I'm in America and I eat a certain type of food, and you're in, let's say, Nigeria, and you eat another type of food, that means we have different culture, that we're not both African? That doesn't make any sense because you're looking at the traditions and the rituals separate from the people.
Right.
So that's
right.
what tribalism is. Tribalism is when you associate with your own clan, your own clique, and you don't see solidarity in that common denominator amongst all your people, unlike what happens here in America, where if something happens and America's under attack, everybody becomes an American.
Right.
And they rally, no matter what they are, they rally around this outside threat. But our people don't seem to do that because we don't see ourselves as African people. We don't see ourselves as that. We see ourselves as Hebrew Israelites, Muslims, Christians, Moors, this, that, whatever, Indians, whatever thing you can come up with. We see ourselves as a myriad of different things. And that's the reason why we are in the position that we're in my opinion, is because, and the common denominator that I feel we should be talking about is infrastructure.
Right. Yes, sir. Without a doubt. Without a doubt. Colin, would you like to chime in?
Oh, yes. I don't even, sometimes when Holmes was speaking, I don't even have to say anything, man. He's like, piggyback. He says everything I'm going to say anyway, you know? He says
How you
everything
doing,
I'm
brother?
going to say. What's up, Brother Holmes? What's up, Mr. Doug? Yeah, I want to piggyback on what he was just saying about tribalism. And just underscores this week I've been at the night. If anybody wants to know, go to the Nairaland site, where that's the largest Nigeria website and everything like that. And there's literally wars going on between African Americans and Nigeria. It's all in love. We always say it's a love-hate relationship. There's wars going on between the Igbos and the Yorubas. Oh, the Nigerians and the Ghanaians. Oh man, they go at it. It's just, you know. But the bottom line, at least we're talking. That's what we always say. At least we're talking. You know, this is what we heard of years ago. We weren't communicating before. Good or bad, no talk means no good. So at least we're talking. Even if we're fighting half the time, that's still good. That's still building a relationship because people do. I'm looking at some of the comments back and forth. I do see common ground here and there, and they'll say stuff about us. No, that's not right. And then the Nigerians say, okay, well, I didn't know that, whatever. Even if they don't admit it, you know, they're saying, okay, well, I didn't know that about them. You know, I didn't know about Africa, or I didn't know that about Nigerians. You're learning, you know. But when we just basically don't even acknowledge each other, you know, in other words, basically when you're a black American and your context of the world ends at the borders of the United States, that's the problem. So even if you are involved in African politics and everything, whether it's good or bad, to me it's a good thing. Because the bottom line is you're going to come away with a different perspective, you know, whether you like it or not. And that's how the world is. People talk about relationships. This is what I was saying before. We African Americans got to bring something to the table. Let me give you an example. China and Russia, China and Japan. People say, well, the white people would love to say China and Japan hate each other. Okay, well, that may be true. In the 1960s, the Japanese opened and the Chinese opened up diplomatic relationships, right, between China and Japan, right? Do you know right now, even though they're contesting water rights over the China Sea and there's skirmishes here and there, and there's Japan's concerned about China doing this, and the other thing, and China thinks Japan ought to pay reparations for the rape of Nanking and all this stuff like that. There is $350 billion worth of business activity between China and Japan right now. Wow. There's Japanese businessmen and Chinese businesses on each other's countries. There's students in each country studying and everything like that, building up Asia. They may hate each other, but they have a relationship. Mm-hmm. I'm saying let's not pretend that there's tension between the diasporans and Africans. There's tension there. It's called slavery, you know, but not talking about them, pretending of this. What we have to do is put them in perspective and put priorities. Say we know the tension's there, but let's get to the common ground where we can work together and everything like that. And then, you know, we can deal with that. The problem we have right now is we bring all our problems up and everything, or we try to ignore them. And then what happens is, and you know something I found out too, OB, there's a lot of white people that are on African sites who are pretending to be black Africans, saying we don't want African Americans here, and they're trolling, you know. And a lot of people they say things to insult us, and I think, and you think it's a Nigerian brother talking about you was actually a white person, you know. And a couple of people found out. Nigerian was like, yeah, that's that South African dude, and the dude let it out of the bag. He said there's a site talking about, this one guy was talking about, and I swear he's one of you brothers. And dude said, yeah, we want an African American state in Africa. And all these Nigerians say, no, you guys don't belong on the continent. Then you got the South African egging it on and whatnot. Say, yeah, I bet you anything. If you ever try to move to Southern Africa, we'll exterminate you and all kind of stuff like that. And I'm saying, well, wow. And they'll say to themselves, what is a white guy who has no business being in Africa in the first place doing in this conversation? You know, it's utterly amazing. You know, so the bottom line is this. We have to basically acknowledge there's differences between different groups of people, but the bottom line is this. If we believe we're part of Africa, then we have to basically establish relationships whether we like it or not. You know, and it's not going to always be pretty. What in the world worth having is always pretty. You know, when you go to your work every, you don't say, yeah, I can't wait to go bust my behind. No, a lot of people, you give them the chance to sit home for 3 months and when they collect the paycheck, they would. You know, but you go to work because you want to earn money. You know, it's not going to fall in lap. Just like our relationship with Africa is not going to fall in our lap. We have to basically go out there and build the bridges and everything and say, look, let's put all that aside and say, what can we do to work together, you know, to achieve our objectives? You know, this is what we want. This is our ultimate goal. You know, our ultimate goal is, yes, we do believe, you know, after 400 years of suffering, after everything we've lost in Africa, we deserve territory for ourselves to be able to pull ourselves up and be equal just like you are. You know, that we cannot take that off the table. Now, in the meantime, in the process, let's work on other things, cultural exchange. Let's work on business relationships. Let's work on dialogue and everything like that. But understand, we're not going to give up our position to satisfy you, and you're not going to expect us to expect you to give up your position. You know, because rightfully so. I don't want, you know, if I was a Nigerian, I wouldn't want an African American coming over there telling me what to do and everything like that and stuff like that. Why would they do that? You got so many Nigerians who are ambitious and everything. Why should we go over there and take opportunity from them? But if we create a situation where both can benefit, then we can come together. You know.
Right. And you know, people got to understand. When I say diaspora, what does diaspora mean? You know what I mean? That's everywhere. There are African people. So even though we're dialoguing with continental Africans and trying to establish a base there, that doesn't mean that we're dismissing the rest of the African world. I mean, we got brothers in the UK, we got brothers in Australia.
Right.
You know, we got Africans all over the planet. So when we talk about the African diaspora, see, this is the thing that frustrates me so much, is that when people fight against us, they're pigeonholing us based on their one-dimensional mentality. We're not just saying, you know, it's not just this or that. It's multi-things. It's multi-tiered.
Well, you know what, for me, let me give my side of the tribalism situation. For me, what I find is that, okay, for instance, I was a locksmith for a couple of years, and I wanted to enter into the electronic security field. So I knew a couple of black men that basically had a little bit of either electrician experience or, had been doing it for years. So I went to them and I said, listen, you know, I'm trying to jump from this locksmith game. It doesn't pay enough. You know, it's ran by white people. They're racist. Like, what can you do for me? And, you know, they gave me lip service as far as, oh, we can do this and we can do that for you. But at the end of the day, I had to struggle. I had to grind it out until I basically got an entry into the field. My fight, my mission, which is, you know, it's in addition to yours, it's the same as yours. What my passion is that when we start thinking about infrastructure, to me, I want to break down the barriers of all people, black people's culture as far as, well, I'm this and I'm that, so that a man that wants to come into an industry and learn something can learn it from another black person without them having a prejudice and saying, I'm not going to teach you nothing because you're a Muslim, or I'm not going to teach you something because you're a Hebrew. That is one of my biggest problems. Because the thing about it is that you have to work even triple and quadruple hard to enter into what I call a high-growth industry that has, as well as a high-skilled industry. You got to work quadruple hard than anybody else, and you have people, your people, my black people, your black people in these industries. And the problem is that they enjoy being what I call the only. They enjoy being, you know what I'm saying? Like the only black electrician in Brooklyn, or the only black locksmith in Brooklyn, or the only black, plumber here and plumber there. And they walk around with their chest out like a peacock and say, I'm the only one doing this. And they won't sacrifice and say, look, I'm trying to bring Brother Holt in this. I'm trying to bring Brother Collins to this. No, I'm the only, and you got to do it yourself, and you got to get into this industry yourself. That's another problem I also have. Like, I would say this, and I don't know if this is on the topic, but I think it's in the line of it. There's a lot of black men and women in the conscious circles They're coming out with a lot of books about what happened, you know, with us and our culture back in the Dogon days, the Hopi days, the Islamic days.
Oh,
Ain't nobody coming out with no book saying, like, listen, if you want to come and be a black electrician, first of all, these are the pitfalls. These are the kind of crackers you're going to be dealing with. These crackers are going to try to restrict you. This is a way around this kind of racism, white supremacy to get into it. You're going to have to study this book and that book. Nobody's coming out with books like these. The only thing that they're talking about is culture, you know, historical things and so-called, like Brother Hart was saying a minute ago, so-called cultural things. Ain't nobody really trying to usher the next man in so he can feed his family properly with a skill, and then we can, when we do establish the base wherever we're going to go, we can say, listen, I got relationships and ties with brother so-and-so. He came in through such and such apprenticeship program. I know he's sharp with his, so I'm going to reach back and I'm going to grab him. And I'm going to shut up by saying this. My father, you know, been doing the electronic security thing since I was born. And he has a white associate that, you know, lives out there in Portland, Oregon with him. The white man invited him to come to South Africa. And he was like, listen, you know, we doing fire down there. We doing, you know, we doing fire. We doing alarms down there. Come on, spend like a year with me in Africa. The money is down there. That's crazy, brother. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Ain't nobody in America telling me, come to Africa, you can install alarms. Ain't nobody telling me that. But a white man can tell you, come to South Africa, and you'll help me because there's money down there, and you'll help me. Like, that really blew my mind. I couldn't believe it.
Well, Kala can probably back me up on this, and I'm sure that he will. What you just described right there is soft infrastructure. You're talking about institutions that help maintain whatever the land is that we get and the things that we lay down. Because you got to have, like, I made this argument all the time. It's like, black folks, I can cure the things that ail us in one generation. Because unless your mentality is that black folks are coming out of the womb or we are innately incapable of doing anything, then it has to be the circumstance. It has to be the fact that we don't have anything functional that we're coming into.
Right.
So if you have a community and there's no architectural schools in your community, and then you turn around and say, hey, you know what, we ain't making no buildings. Well, why do you think? There's nothing there to teach people how to make buildings. If black folks can do, like nobody just comes out of the womb brilliant. I'm sorry. A lot of what happens is your circumstances and your surroundings and how you was raised up. Now, there's going to be those occasions that you can get a rose that grows out of a swamp occasionally, but that don't stop people from planting in fertile soil.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So we got to create the fertile soil if we want this growth to occur, and that can only happen with institutions. Now, institutions is what you're talking about, brother, and cartels, there's another word that people don't talk about.
And consortiums. And that's what we're trying to build with Black Wall Street 2.0. Not Black Wall Street USA, Black Wall Street 2.0 Kemetic Pipeline. That's what we're trying to do. And what's so important about groups like this is the fact that when people, and I had a vision when I was on Chef Rob's show last night, is the fact that this show is going to be so important. The Black African infrastructure is going to be so important. Why? Because we're going to create a sanctuary, by which ideology of what we're talking, nation building, can thrive. Right now there's no sanctuary for anything. In other words, people, they know this stuff, whatever like that, but people who believe it, in order for you to cultivate this stuff, it has to be taught over and over again. So when they hear our network, right, when the BAIO network grows, they're like, well, yes, they basically endorse Kemetic Pipeline, Black Wall Street, and everything. So when you got those people like Brother Mr. Dawood said and whatnot, who want to be, no, he ain't down with the Moors, he ain't down with this. No, we're talking about an infrastructure here. And then they basically going to have to come and basically try to come at all of us by saying, wait a minute here. You're talking about our infrastructure here. Do you have an alternative? No, I don't. Okay, then, all right, if this is for the community and you can join this too, this is for you. We're not being discriminated. We don't care about your religious back affiliation. We don't care about, don't wear your religion on your chest. We're saying this is Black African infrastructure. This is what we're doing with Pan-African. All these ideas have been sitting on the books for 150 years after slavery that no one ever picked up and did. Now we're finally saying, you know something? That's a good idea. We should have did it. We're putting this into action. And therefore, when we put this into action, of course you're not going to see this on the mainstream media. Of course you're not going to see Jesse Jackson and all these people endorse it. But you will see people like us who know what we're talking about defending it and giving it a home and a foundation. Once that happens, then the movement that we're doing can flourish. Because right now, anybody can come up and just say, no, I don't believe that. No, I got this book right here. Just read my book when it comes out and whatnot. Everybody's like, I mean, just so frustrating. I got a CD. Just buy my tape that I got out. Buy my CD. Or buy this, or go on my YouTube channel and download this and pass it around. That'll solve all our problems. Oh, yeah, I got my lecture, I can come and get a lecture at your thing if you host me a lecture or whatever like that. All this kind of nonsense, the protests, all this stuff that has never got a hold of stand, all this protest, all this, that has not worked and only benefits and make a few pompous, grandstanding pontificators famous, does not work anymore. We're creating a foundation. We're saying this is what it is. This is the infrastructure. This is what we need to do. These are the problems and everything. Now this is how we move. This is how we move forward. If you want.
The irony. What the irony is, Kala. The irony is the demographic that's been making the most waves in this so-called conscious community, for lack of a better word, has been progressive, African-centered progressive people who are not getting a salary for this.
Right.
We don't have no talk shows where people is paying us $1 million, but we've changed the talking point and changed the narrative on our spare time.
Right.
That shows you how powerful the message is.
Right, and that's what I said. And this is a sanctuary for that message. So no one's going to be able to, because the only way they're going to stop us is if they basically come and kidnap us and put guns to our heads and say, get on the radio and say this. And
it's too late for that because the idea is out there.
It's already out there. People. If I change my mind and start becoming one of these whole definite Negroes, please somebody shoot me. Because what got to me is I sold out.
Wait, we got another brother on the line, Brother Percy Franklin. Calling from the 731. Would you like to chime in, big brother?
Hello?
Hello? Yes, sir.
Now I know right now if you have some questions I can answer them, I guess.
Well, no. Well, what's your idea? Like, what is your concept? We're talking about tribalism versus Pan-Africanism. What's your idea as far as tribalism? And do you think that tribalism is better? Do you think it's better for us to be in separate groups and work our thing out? Or what's your concept on the question on the topic that we're talking about?
One second, please.
Sure. Do you want us to come back to you? Oh, he dropped.
Uh-oh.
Anyway, I just wanted to give the brother a chance. Oh, well. Anyway, back to what we're talking about, because his call just dropped. So, yeah.
I just wanted to make one statement before you if I can.
Sure.
John Henry Clarke, I had played this clip from John Henry Clarke, and I think it's a very powerful clip where he describes the importance of a name, how you name yourself.
Right.
And he mentioned that, when you call yourself African, you're making a political statement. You're making a social, economic, and political statement when you say that. And I've explained this in many videos before, but I'll just briefly explain when I say I'm African. And this is a fixed position for me. This is a fixed point. This is something that I'm not willing to have a debate on. When you say you're African, I'm aligning myself with a culture, a history, and a land.
Yep.
Now let's just say hypothetically, I'm just going to be hypothetical. Let's say all black people acknowledge that particular piece of land that we come from, our motherland, is our home. And we collectively get together and say, well, you know what? Africa has too many negative connotations toward it. Let's name it something else. I'd be down. If it was a collective decision, I wouldn't fight or argue with you. So the name itself is not what the big. Everybody concentrates on that because when you bring up, well, we Africa. Well, Africa is a Roman this and that. I don't care about them. If I want to go to a location and I say, can you give me a plane ticket? I'm not going to say, can you give me a plane ticket to Akibulan? Because they're going to look at me like I'm crazy.
Right.
It's like we have these meaningless discussions that don't mean anything.
Right.
What the land is currently known as Africa. Now, we can argue about where it came from or whatever. That's what people know it as. So when you identify yourself with that land and with that history and with that culture, people know what you're talking about.
Right. Right.
It's a
I don't ask to go to Kemet when I go to the airport.
Hey, let me pick you back on that. My brother Fabian sent me a thing. We was talking about. I'm not even put the Moors out there or anything like that. But there's a concerted effort that because we have people that that are Moors that are joining the Kemetic pipeline and stuff like that. We're gonna work with them and everything. But my opinion personally is there's too many people out there who are in African ancestry denial.
Right.
I know there's some African Americans who got Native American blood in them, and they got Caucasian blood in them, and all this kind of stuff like that. But overwhelmingly, all of us are at least 80% African blood. All of us.
Right.
And the bottom line, unless you got a grandparent or great grandparent that's Caucasian, Indian, leave that stuff alone. We know that you got the Indian, we got the stuff like that. But for the most part, when you walk down the street or you walk in the wrong neighborhood, you walk in Bensonhurst, whatever like that, when they crack you over the head, they're not going to be asking you about your little Native American blood. You are black. That's what they see, And my point is this: they got people now. They call themselves the Washittas, whatever like that. People are making up every day. I'm hearing the new things.
The what, brother?
The Washittas. There's a group.
Oh yeah, Washita. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and Washita, whatever. And I'm saying to myself, and they're now claiming that they were never. This is a new thing. They're claiming that they were never brought here as slaves and whatnot. That they were indigenous here and everything like that. They were here before Columbus, and they have a culture and all kinds of like that. And I'm looking at it, and I told this one girl on the Facebook page, I said, look, all you have to do is do your DNA evidence. Just by looking at your picture, I can tell you probably from the Kron tribe, probably a little bit of, and she went ballistic. Nah. And I say to myself, those things right there are really legitimate points where Africans will say, why so many African Americans don't know who they are,
Right.
And so when you talk about unifying with them and everything and stuff like that, you're coming with all this Hebrew and all this other stuff, Christian, Moor, and all this stuff like that. You wear it on your chest and everything, and they look at you like you're crazy, And so that right there is a legitimate thing. And I always tell them, like I told this one guy today, I said, hey, do you go in any Pan-African groups, any black Pan-African groups? I said, I'll invite you to some. So if you think all African Americans think that Africans are with flies on one, that's not. Yes, a couple of generations ago we thought that, because that's all we saw,
Right.
But why are you attacking African Americans? You're not attacking the white media, who to this day refuse to show you modern African skylines or cities.
Right. Right.
You blame us for the image of negative image or some ignorant African Americans in the ghetto. African school children are called dirty, booty scratching, all that. I say if your kids are ignorant, kids are ignorant. All kids do that, but they don't know.
Right.
So you're gonna take your perception of African Americans and ready to write us off because of some over-reported incidents about Africans being bullied by African Americans.
And what I find funny is that you can be from West. Let's say your ancestry can be straight from West Africa. You'll still be able to get into that Wichita, whatever nation, with no DNA test taken. As long as you're willing to accept their ideology, they will bring you into the fold, even though you were like 100% West African. So that shows you how full of crap that stuff is.
Yeah, and it's just amazing. That's why I said this is the point. People would love to us to take out the African. They were supposed to take the African part, but that's never going to go anywhere. If you're going to call me anything politically, you call me African or call me African American, but that African stays no matter what.
Yeah. That's a fixed position
the African
for me.
has to be there. There was an incident that happened this week where an Italian-American school teacher in California who was suspended because she started dropping the F-bomb on a student when a question came up about what African-Americans should call themselves Americans or African-Americans, right? and the student played taped it. And the question is, and I looked at some of the comments, right, on the comments on the thread, and it went on like a mile down, and when the white people was like, well, you know, they shouldn't. They're Black Americans. White people are telling us now we should call them Black Americans, and basically one person said, well, the reason why people got a problem with this because at first when people started embracing it, white people were like, yeah, you're African, this and that. Now that the image of Africa is changing, you know, as Africa is becoming growing up and everything, now the white people are saying, you know, I think that was a big mistake and whatnot. Now let's try to distance up. Now Italian Americans, you know, she says, I'm Italian American. I don't call myself Italian American. Now you know for yourself that's a lie. You go to Little Italy, everything like in New York, Pennsylvania, all you see is the Italian red, green, and white flags and pizzerias. They hold on to their heritage. You see Sicilian this, Italian love, Italia, all over the place, you know. But when Black people, we say we're African Americans, people get threatened by that. Irish say, I'm an Irish American, you know, and I'm saying to myself, what do people? Then you have this one African person from what I would say, well, we should be the only ones. I'm a recent immigrant from Africa. I should call myself African American. I said, not, and somebody else said, well, wait a minute here. The reason why people call themselves African Americans is because we're devoid of any particular tribe. African Americans are made of all the DNA of the African tribes. So since we don't know particularly what country or region we come from, we call ourselves African Americans, the descendants of the transatlantic slave trade. That connects us holistically with a land, you know. When you come from Nigeria, you can call yourself a Nigerian American because that's a political entity you emigrated from. You're Ghanaian. That's a place with a culture and a heritage with different tribes that you know where you come from. So you call yourself Ghanaian because you're a Ghanaian national or you're a naturalized American citizen. So therefore, now the term African American, so probably now whites from Africa are trying to call themselves African American. And we're saying, wait a minute here, let's stop the music. Whites will never be Africans in America. They're Europeans that live in a continent of Africa. Have you ever heard of a white person who's been living in Canton or Shanghai for 2 or 3 centuries call themselves Chinese? Will they ever be Chinese? You see white people in Japan who were born in a military base call themselves Japanese?
Malcolm said it. What he said, if a cat has kittens in the oven, the kittens ain't biscuits.
Kitten ain't a biscuit, you know?
Brother Earl, did you want to chime in on this?
How long a log stays in the river, it'll never become a crocodile. That's an old African proverb.
Brother Earl, are you there? It's Cole from the 401.
Oh, what's up?
And who are we speaking to?
My name is.
What did you say your name was, brother?
My name is Allah.
Okay. Did you have something that you wanted to chime in, or you just listening?
I'm just listening. I don't know.
Okay.
I didn't press one on. So yeah.
Okay. All right, my brother. I'm sorry. I thought you were somebody else. Sorry about that.
No, it's okay.
I'll tell you one thing, man. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, well, let me ask you this question. When it comes, because there's 2 questions I want to ask, I think, to open up the subject even wider, even though I'm having a good time with what we're talking about. When it comes to the word nationalism, there's a lot of people who get scared with this word, although I do know from having contacts inside of most of the big organizations, big Black organizations, your Moorish Science Temple, your Nation of Islam, your Nuwat, whatever, you have your religious people, then you have your nationalist people, because we're talking about tribalism. And 9 times out of 10, what I find out from being a person inside the construct is the nationalist people are pushed to the side and they're looked at as militant, crazy, and radical.
Yes.
Because, you know what I'm saying? Because they're like, oh, you know, that's not what God is about. That's not what religion is about. Now, I know for a fact that all the original founders were nationalists. Marcus Garvey, Honorable Elijah Muhammad, even Noble Drew Ali. All of these men were nationalists. All of these men talked about having a nation, whether it was a nation someplace else or a nation here. Can you brothers please define nationalism and why it's important to the discussion?
Well, let me chime in on that first and foremost. And this is what, like I was saying on the first show we did, brother. I said when I first got in tune with the Nation of Islam, I really thought the ultimate goal was to have a nation in Africa because I read Malcolm X, Garvey, and everything. So that's what I thought I was buying into, you know, with Farrakhan and everything like that. then after the Million Man March, what I found was Farrakhan did a year after the Million Man March, people waiting for the big program to roll out, whatever like that.
Yep.
I'm reading the Final Call every week and everything like that. And then Farrakhan does an article, and the Final Call says, "What's troubling America?" And I said, "What?" He said, and then in the article he was talking about, we have to get rid of this ideology of extreme nationalism and all stuff like that of this world.
Yes, sir. I remember that.
You remember that?
Yes.
I was like, is this Negro crazy? This is what we was marching on us for. This is what I fell out with half my friends. This is what I gave up good white business contacts could have made me some money and everything. This is what I was following, for this. And then it dawned on me. I said, look, people use the nationalism because we bring the energy. And basically they use nationalism because they really have no credibility outside of nationalism. Nobody wants to hear their dogma and their theories and all that stuff. Nationalism, when you talk about nationalism, that attracts people. That attracts people that really who aren't racist, who aren't religious fanatics, who aren't into all that stupid whatever stuff like misogyny, whatever stuff they would talk about. But nationalism is people hang around. If it's a real nationalism, because they're saying, yes justifies the means. Yes, we'll have an independent nation. It will be commerce or whatever like that. But the bottom line is this: these people, they want to get rid of nationalism, but then send you out there every day to deal with the white man to earn your money in the world like that and give your money. So wait a minute, you're against nationalism, but okay, then what's the alternative? Well, we got to do for self. Well, I don't see anybody do for self. Can you pay me $60,000 a year, replace the job that I have? How that
come on now, brother.
Can you basically give me this IT job? Can you give me this fund this my insurance agency? Can you do this right here? No, but do for yourself.
And nationalism is the very definition of doing for self. That's the thing I don't understand.
Right.
Absolutely.
But they don't want to go that. They don't want to go there. They'll say do for self. It's all false. Because the bottom line is this: when you see people in most groups and everything like that, the only people like Mr. Zoe says that do well are the people that's running it. Everybody else is scrambling from hand to mouth every day and everything like that. But no one basically is doing anything for those brothers out there that's passing out the Final Call and doing their thing and everything like that. That's proselytizing for them. Everything. The brothers never come up.
Right.
And so you ask that brother to give up to their version of nationalism is basically let's hide from the white man. Let's go around here and let's self-isolate ourselves and everything like that, have a community. And so the bottom line is, if you ask yourself this, first of all, the Cubans could do that because the Cubans came here with they supplanted what they had in Cuba. They came in, they were already businessmen, they know who they are, this, that, so when they established themselves in Miami, all they did is replicate what they already had. They were businessmen, They had business contacts, business connections, and everything like that. And also, they were able to blend in with the surrounding community. For example, look at Chinatown. If only Chinese went in Chinatown would die. But all kinds of people, what I do, we used to go down the Canal Street and all that, shop in Chinatown. Everybody goes to Chinatown, but the Chinese own it, So the bottom line is their idea of nationalism is basically, let's get a piece of Harlem right here and keep all the whites and everybody else out. That's not even feasible. Because, first of all, if 60% of the residents in Harlem are basically on food stamps and Section 8 and whatnot, how are you going to sustain let's say you did buy Harlem, whatever like that. How are you going to sustain those people? And then you tell those people, you got to give up your Section 8, you got to give up your this, your that, or your job downtown, whatever like that, because we're just going to be isolated. See, that's what I'm saying, this silliness. And this is what people attach to nationalism. This is why it has no credibility among black people. Then when you roll out the plans, and I'm going to say this later on in the show because I don't want to take up too much time, I want to put this out there. But if you roll out a real comprehensive plan on how we could achieve an independent nation, something like the Jews did and everybody else did who established South Sudan, whoever like that that's coming up now, if you say, look, you roll up a plan like that, they will say, you know something? I'll buy into that. And the people that's running these so-called black organizations, they think in a million years because they think, they hate, and I listened to Chef Rob show, there's a hostility against educated black people. Black people with skills and money and millionaires, they're black too. So if you really have a nationalist program, that means you can offer offer them a sanctuary too.
Right.
You know, everybody in the nationalist movement shouldn't be all poor and the proletariat. If you can't attract investment bankers, stockbrokers, everybody to your cause and everything, something's wrong.
Yep.
It means you're
yes,
intellectually bankrupt. If you can't because you should be able to attract the best and the brightest.
Right.
You should be able to attract intelligent people with skills, people who have logic and reason. You should be able to attract people like that. If you're rejecting them, then what does that say about your ideology or your movement?
Right. Yes, you're right. You're right. And see, I was doing I did a series on this years ago, like 2 years ago, and it was called The Death of Black Organizations. And I started out with crack cocaine, alcohol, and marijuana, and then I went into inflation, and then I eventually went into education. And what I found is that educated people and prosperous people, these are the two main enemies of what your so-called religious black grassroots organizations. The two main enemies is the educated person and the prosperous person, because both of these people are going to teach the members how to give less time to the organization and more time being prosperous themselves. So what happens is that, and I've been in the mid-level positions as a manager, being either captain, lieutenant, whatever, and a lot of people will tell you, like in public, they'll lip service and say, "Bring me your educated. If you would work with Muhammad, or if you could work with this one and that one." But behind closed doors, what you will hear a lot of times, keep them brothers and sisters away from the educated. Keep them away from the prosperous, because they will take them away from giving to the organization. And that alienates these people. So what you'll find, and I've seen this in a lot of different cities, brothers, what you'll find is you'll have a minister that's very articulate and can speak or whatever, and he'll have educated and prosperous people sitting in his crowd. As soon as he says, Hotep, Assalamu alaikum, peace, praise the Lord, them brothers and sisters is out of there. They gone. They're not going to join. They're not going to sign up. If you have dinner, they may stay for dinner. You know what I'm saying? But they're not going to ever look like the people that's part of the organization, because nobody has ever built a mechanism for them to assimilate into the organization and be used properly. And I hear what I'm saying with this. Years ago, Black Achievement came on my show. And as a matter of fact, it was during this series that I was having. And Black Achievement was saying to me, he said he contemplated joining the Nation of Islam years ago. Now, when I say Nation of Islam, I'm not talking about all of us who practice this. I'm talking about the most popular one. You know what I mean? Because there's a lot of us that practice teaching on Black Islam, and we don't think like that. But either way, he was saying he was contemplating joining years ago. And he said that when he came there, that basically what they were going to do was Black Achievement is a person that makes a lot of money, is a successful brother. And he said that what they were going to do is they were going to basically put him out there to sell papers. And he said that he didn't think that was a useful, basically the proper use of his time, or an efficient use of his time. And I agree. You bring a brother like that into an organization, and you tell a brother, your job is to teach them, if you're a doctor, your job is to teach them health. If you're a lawyer, your job is to teach them law. If you're whatever you are, and you have to be, very efficient with your money in order for you to stay what you are, you have to teach brothers and sisters how to save money, how to use money, how to allot it properly, how to take care of their family. You can't make them a person on the bottom rung just coming off the street that may have a couple of felonies or never really paid attention in school, and you're going to put them out there on the same front line. And that doesn't work in 2013.
Because the very structure of these organizations feeds that. It's limited. It's not. That's why I say, if nationhood, we got to think outside of organizations, because organizations are too limited and too inefficient to handle nationhood.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It just doesn't work.
Right.
We got to think on a more holistic level, because the reason why they don't want to and the reason why that happens is because it's ingrained into the very mechanism of what the organization is. It feeds off of those type of people to be followers. So if that's where your bread and butter is, you're not going to stop that.
Right.
But that's it's like it's a part of the system or the part of the structure of it, which is why we got to think outside of this organizational aspect and more of a nationhood aspect.
Right. Yep. And like I was saying before, what you have in a lot of organizations too, and like I said, and you know, I have a little empathy for a lot of our brothers who've been through a lot of pain and stuff like that. And when you have an organization, this is your one chance to shine, you know. And and I noticed that, you know, and I what I know from when I was in my early 20s, I went to my meetings and stuff like that, Nation of Islam meetings down here in Virginia, and I went to this one group, whatever, one guy, you know, I forgot his name, Wesley, man, but he had an African central name, but he had a bookstore here, and we used to have our meetings and everything like that. And I went up there and I started talking all this stuff like, you know, about business, stuff like that. And all of a sudden, man, afterwards and whatnot, you know, people like, yeah, this and the other thing, this dude was hostile towards me. After everybody, yeah, he was hot. He was like, well, you gotta understand, you know, Dr. Such and Such said this. I'm like, you know, beat me, just beat me over the head. And see, but you see, you know, but that's the white man's system, and that's and I said, no, but I was just talking about, you know, we could build businesses, this, that, and the other thing. I was trying to build black business networks back then. This was way back then in the early 90s. And I'm saying he was basically, see, but you man, you know, it's all in the taking to take care of. And I'm saying, well, so I look at it now, right? Because I guess I'm young, I didn't know any better. I thought all these guys had a plan. I thought, you know, the ball was rolling, but who might have basically challenged all this stuff like that? I didn't know these Negroes didn't have anything going on, you know. And look at it now. The internet now exposes everybody. No, none of these dudes had anything going on, you know. But the bottom line, what it is now is you got these guys out here now, and they're scared, man. I had one brother of mine yesterday on one of my threads. And he was like, well, Colin, man, I've been doing this 50 years, man. I'm just going to go ahead and retire. You since you know so much, I'm going to retire and whatnot. I said, no, brother, we still need you and everything like that. Keep doing what you're doing. Nah, but you know, the way you saying, you know, what we did was absolutely no use and whatnot. You know, I just wasted my time 50 years. I said, no, I'm just saying, you know, I want to start seeing results. You know, and the same old ain't going to work for me anymore.
Yeah, like that's why I put out. I don't know if y'all saw what I put up today, but I was put up stuff about this protesting and rallying. It's like, give me a break, man. It's like, you keep doing the same thing over and over again, and then you're expecting different results, and then I'm crazy because I'm like, well, something is wrong. This is not working.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And I'm going to tell you, like, as far as I'm concerned, brothers, when I'm, like, if you have 2 scientists or 3 scientists, and they're all astrophysicists, but each one of them has a different take on certain things. That type of discussion and argument I love, because you're dealing with people that's your peers, and they all have something valuable to input in different ways of looking at things. That's great. And I'll give a spoiler. This is a spoiler for those people who think that everything is going to be peace and harmony and dogs playing with cats and stuff and everything is going to be beautiful. That's not realistic.
Right.
Every nation has these arguments. Every nation has these different points of views. That's why I say I want to sidestep all of that crap and not get caught up in the minutia of these arguments and start dealing with the context in which these arguments take place.
Right.
That's what I'm concentrating on. I want to be able to have this discussion in our own nation.
Right.
We have our own nation, and we have control of our infrastructure. I would love to get on a talk show and go back and forth about whether this tactic or this strategy works and doesn't work.
Right. Because right now in America, we can have all arguments, but we know we're like, it's like a bunch of animals, horses in a pen, arguing about this and that. You know, it doesn't matter because you know somebody else is controlling their infrastructure, their environment, where they're going to go. Wherever like that, you know.
We're arguing. We're arguing over how we're going to spend the lottery money that we didn't even pick the numbers to win yet.
Right. Yeah. Right. You know. So that's why I said, you know, when you're dealing with some of our brothers, man, you just gotta tell them, look, you know, the reason why we say nationhood and whatnot, you have to ask yourself this core. I ask yourself this core question: are black people capable of running their own affairs? You know. Yeah. Sure we are. Okay. And then the next step is, you know, would we do better? Because right now, they say, well, I'm not going nowhere. I said, where do you live right now? Well, I live in D.C. Last year, I was in Atlanta. The other year, I was in Texas. Yeah, I was over there. I got a job here. Didn't work out there, so I'm in New York. You moved around the United States 5 times in the last 10 years and whatnot. But if someone says, yo, look, I can give you a place where you can bring your skills, build and own land, own this, that, and the other thing, build yourself up, and you don't have to move ever again. You tell me you wouldn't even give that a second short? Yeah, you know something. I said, don't make a decision now. Let that marinate in your head.
How about have this marinate in their head? Your child does not inherit your job.
Right. Your job could be better than you are. Everything is going to be up and up. You don't have to ever have this conversation about we need to control our community or not, because you're going to be controlling everything from the thing. Every time I hear that something goes through, it's like just jumping in the computer and Bruce Lee kicking somebody in the head, man. You know, our community. We haven't had a community since we've been here.
Exactly. And the thing about it, that's the thing that kills me, Colin, is that we actually talk about having a community, and then they're talking about a community as if it exists. A community, the community is like a vague abstraction in their mind. We're talking about having something concrete and tangible.
Yep.
Yeah, they don't understand that. It's like the community's all in your mind, you know. You know, it's all you gotta have the community in your mind, right? Pretend you're in the community, right? You know, and as long as you believe it's there and everything like that, it's just like people who basically pretend like they're rich. You know, yeah, we're rich. You know, I'm praying that $1 million will come through. I'm praying that your afflictions to go away. I'm praying for this to happen. We've been praying for 400 years. What's the difference between people praying, going to church, praying, and believing nothing happening? The Negroes sitting in a thing talking about all the same other stuff and whatnot, and never happened. Same freaking thing. Same thing they get on the black church about. The same thing they're freaking doing. None of them produce any freaking results. You know.
Sure. Yo, I want to ask you a question, brother. But before I do it, this person has their hand up, so let me see if they want to ask us a question. Caller from the 401, did you have a question?
Yeah. Well, I didn't have a question. I just wanted, I guess, comment.
Sure, come on.
I'm really liking the discussion right now.
Is this Bianchi?
No. This is Allah. I'm friends with Holip on Facebook. I do that Dialogue Diaspora YouTube thing.
Oh, okay. Peace, brother.
Yeah. What do you call it? Yeah, I really like you guys' answers on what is nation building or what is a nation. I think that when I think of a nation, obviously I think of, you know, having our own, like, infrastructure and having businesses, enterprises and stuff like that. I also look at it like we have our own opportunity to, especially, like, maybe in America, but around the world, we have our own opportunity to, like, contribute to humanity, like, on the technical side, so we can, like, create different businesses or different technologies, things like that can, like, that people will actually like and respect and actually give us money for. So I think there is a whole, like, idea that it's about isolationism or being against other groups, but I think nationhood in its best attempt is going to be about us giving to other people or producing so that other people can buy as well as ourselves. So.
No question. You're right.
Yeah,
that would be the economic fruits of nationhood.
Right.
And this is what I always say. You have to have a base of operations first. You know, everything else is satellites. You know, in other words, our communities that remain in America, wherever, are satellites. You know, we have to have a base, a political, most important thing, a political base of operations. That's the one thing we don't have. Even when we're talking about doing things in Liberia and the things that we're doing in Liberia and West Africa and everything like that, we can achieve economic parity and everything like that, but we really, really do need a state. A state on the world stage would give us the voice that we never had in 40 years. Because right now, the United States puts out negative propaganda against African Americans to the world. You know, they put out this image of African Americans are dangerous, violent. We're doing all this stuff like that. They deliberately do this to basically to make sure that we have no allies in the world. The only allies we get are, you know, and some people we have mixed feelings about brother Gaddafi and everything like that. But it's unfortunate that's the only type of allies we get. We should have friggin' allies in the UK. We should have allies in Russia. We should have allies in China, Japan. None of these people will basically go against the white establishment in America and reach out to African Americans. Why? At the same time they do that, at the same time they convince us that we're Americans. Wait a minute here, you know. Why has it we're Americans? You know, every time America goes to war, you're telling me I got to go to war. I didn't start any war with these Arabs and everything like that. So you mean tell me they're gonna be gunning for us? You know, too. You know, I had no idea. I don't know what's going on with Israel and the Arab war. It doesn't concern me. You know, my whole thing is this: when we start talking about nationhood, we're talking about how do we see the world? You know, we should develop our own friendships, relationships with people outside of what the United States think, and outside of the Christian church, outside of Islam, outside of all that, and develop it from our standpoint of view of parity and reciprocity. In other words, basically, no more. I tell people all the time. I tell our friends the Pan-African Union and the group that's for the African Union for African American branch. Everything. Look, Africa is gonna have to start coming to the table. You know, we're taking a big chance, right, going against the United States. You know, in Africans, even with Zimbabwe and everything, we're taking a real. I talk about Zimbabwe brothers. You're asking us to take a major risk, and every time we do this, we always come up short because these people look at us harder. They scrutinize us. We're still under the gun of these people right here. So if we're going to basically move forward, you want our help in promoting your country in America and build ties with us and everything. Use our political capital in America. You better give us something in return. You know, and when I'm saying with the black infrastructure, you say, well, what can we do? First of all, black people, show me how many black businessmen got oil contracts to drill oil in West Africa. Didn't we come from that land? They're dividing up African oil blocks like crazy right now, you know? Are any African American companies getting bids on those things? Or concessions, farming concessions. All these things are going on. African Americans are not included in it. They say, well, you guys got to come here. Well, first of all, when you guys do business with the U.S. Embassy, you're doing business with white America. That's the first thing. I try to tell my brothers that, and they don't, Africa, they don't understand. Well, you guys can come over here. I said, to join the African Opportunities group costs like $5,000 per person, you know? A lot of us don't really have that money put around like that. That's just to be in there and attend their meetings and everything. Most of those are white businessmen right now, and what they're doing now is recruiting African immigrants in the United States to bypass the black community. So what you do have right now is Africans are developing a relationship with America outside of African Americans. It used to be a time where Africans came to America and they stayed in Harlem, they stayed in D.C., they stayed in black hotels and everything. Now it's like you got another generation of Nigerians who they're trying to turn against us and everything, and they're coming to America and they're doing business with white America. White America, see, this goes to the fact that white supremacy, unlike what a lot of people believe, is not invincible. In other words, basically, they know that, wait a minute here, we have to show the Nigerians that we're not racist and everything. So if white supremacy was so invincible, white people can abuse Nigerians the same way they do us. But they don't abuse Africans the same way they do us. Why? Because they know those Africans are going to take that back to Africa. So you think it's any stretch of imagination why Africans always have a good image of America? They'll say African Americans are the problem. Most Africans believe African Americans are the problem. Why? Because Africans, when they come over here, they're given student visas, they're given all this stuff, housing, and they're basically around white people who basically know, look, we have to basically put a good image of these people to them. They go over to Africa and do the Peace Corps, start with the Peace Corps. White Americans aren't so bad. Look what they're doing. They're helping us out here, this, and the other thing. But there's a lot of Africans who know better, and those are the ones I'm building with Liberia. You know, they know better. They know what white America did to their country. You know, they know what white America did in Liberia. You know, and so we have to basically be cognizant of that fact that we have to build relations and understand who the enemies are and what they're doing, and don't ignore our differences and everything. White people are going to play on Africans versus Africans, the slave trade, stuff like that to divide us. That's there. The slave trade is there. But what's on the table right now is building Africa. We have to put our differences aside and work together. And also, part of building Africa is Africans have to turn over territory in either their countries or a territory or somewhere in the continent and they should basically help us out in building that country with political infrastructure, economic infrastructure, and social infrastructure on the world stage. That's what they can do for us. When they do that for us, then Africans and African Americans will be one people, you know. But it can't be one-sided anymore. We can't be taking all the risks, and they walk off with all the prize. You know, it don't work like that anymore.
Yep. That's why, brothers, I'm putting in my bid to be a statesman or a diplomat for our new nation. I'm putting my resume in.
Yeah, that's what's up, man.
I hear that.
Because I already know how to approach dealing with continental Africans, and especially like look at Aliko Dangote. This guy made $4.9 billion this year, and the year's not even over.
Right.
Could you imagine if we was to give contracts to our businessmen here in America, African American,
right,
to get some of those contracts? And that's just the cement that he's dealing with.
Yeah. He's building an oil refinery in Nigeria, the first ever oil refinery in Nigeria. A $15 billion project. Nigeria is going to be able to produce gasoline and all kinds of fuel for its domestic use. Hundreds of billions of dollar project. Amazing thing is that the Leke and the Echo City is going to be complete in 3 years. A new city on the Atlantic coast, the Gulf of Guinea. We have an opportunity to basically establish ourselves in Africa. We want to be able to establish ourselves in Africa. But the thing is, in America, we have to come to the table. Dangote will be like, okay, I do business, but do you have a united front of black construction companies?
Exactly.
And this is what I'm trying to tell people. Like when I started the Association of African American for Liberia, Emil Sestak and I created a model by which other organizations can create associations. Right? When you're an association, if you're an association of African American contractors and cement layers, right? You have a nationwide association, divided up into like 4 or 5 regions in the United States, and you have a regular meeting, stuff like that. You could basically say, okay, we're going to basically pool our money together and form an import company, and we're going to buy Dangote cement, right? Dangote cement at a price, right? And then we're going to basically be able to facilitate Dangote building a cement plant in the United States because we're going to be his number one customer.
Exactly.
Those are the sort of things we have to basically do, and everything. That's just basically what we have to do while we're in the United States. Then it's going to be like, well, we talk about going around, we're like, oh, dang, man, you guys, yeah, man, there'll be businesses lined up around the globe to try to help us out.
Now, what he just described right there, that very specific thing that he described is Nationhood 101. And also, you don't have to go to Africa. You can stay right here in America. And that situation can still go down.
Those who want to stay in America, hey, we got something for you too. So those who want to go to Africa, hey, you can go there. I'm not saying people think when we talk about nationhood, we tell you everybody pack the bags, get on the boat, and sail off to the coast. Not what we're talking about. We're saying we want to create a satellite, a base of operations on the continent. So we can basically have relationships with whoever we want to have relationships with outside the jurisdiction and sovereignty of the United States. We need our own sovereignty. When you have your own sovereignty, you control all the land to the core of the earth, to the atmosphere. Everything that comes in that atmosphere is we control. Somebody, a fishing boat or airplanes, airspace, we have nothing. We have nothing protecting us in our community. We can protect ourselves.
Anything being built over here in the States, if the cement is not supplied by Dangote, something is wrong.
Right. We have to have an association. We have to have a business association of black-owned developers and hotel housing developers and cement layers and stuff like that. We have that organization, right? Just of the board saying, yeah, something. This is what we came up with. We got this amount of money right here, and the bank's going to finance it. Whoever like that, is it all the people who work in the government and everything like that, who use our political connect? This is what we call our cards in. We say, look, this is what we plan on doing. And if they don't come through, these black politicians don't come through, guess what? We're going to vote you out of office.
Now, you know what College just did just now? He answered the question that everybody seems to be asking us all the time. What can we do right here?
Right.
Yes.
Yep.
He just answered it. That's one thing, and that's only one thing.
That's
so, I mean, I don't know how we can explain it any better than we've been explaining it. I really don't see how I can do it. I'm running out of explanation.
Let me chime in on this real quick, brother. The beauty of the vision that you're articulating now, for those men and some women who are in these particular trades or whatever that's going to be nation building and business building, I find a lot of times that brothers and sisters are very they get tired of the racism. They get tired of the lack of meritocracy, the corruption, and all that other stuff. What you're talking about right now gives them, and this is the word I love that y'all been using today, sanctuary. It gives you a sanctuary that you don't have to go through the BS of dealing with these crackers and having to come home and then you deal with your family and stuff like that. You can go to work and you know that if you give 1,000%, that, whatever you give, you're going to get back and then some or whatever. But you're not going to be swindled out of your money. You don't have to worry about your overtime being swindled. You don't have to worry about somebody being promoted over you that's not as good as you, things like that. So what this does for even a child's psychology is it lets them know, listen, it used to be very hard back in the day, but now we have something for you that we can call our own. So when you get older, you're going to be working with daddy, or you're going to be working with mommy, or you're going to be working with your uncle in this particular, black-owned nation where we do this and we do that. You don't have to worry about some white person screaming on you for no reason and then playing the legal cards against you, saying that you're the antisocial one or you're the, you're this or you're that. But when you try to take them to court, then basically nobody understands what the hell you're talking about.
We wouldn't even be dealing with that nonsense at all. What we're basically talking about is creating our own markets.
Right.
Our own internal markets that we control, where we don't have to deal with all of that BS.
Right.
We have our own commerce, our own businesses, and handle a key word is handle our own affairs.
Right.
That's the one thing. One thing about that with Liberia, we look at Liberia, the whites who supported Liberia back in the 19th century, the blacks who eventually took over the movement. Basically, they said this: black people, because back in those days, it was very clear black people had no power, no anything in America. White people weren't going to give an inch. And then every little thing black people wanted to do was controlled by white people. Still like that parts of the South in America, still like that to this day. Black people say we want to control our own affairs. Affairs mean we're going to be. It's going to be kumbaya. In Liberia they had fist fights sometimes, politicians. But at the end of the day, when they called the vote, the law was the law. And so basically they say you handle your own affairs. In America, you couldn't even have that conversation. Because your affairs are controlled by somebody else. That's like being a perpetual child.
Without a doubt, brother. And that's for me, amongst the other things, that's one of the passions of me is that I know what I went through. I know what my father went through. You know what I'm saying? You know what your fathers and mothers went through as far as just trying to be because the big brush is always, like Brother mentioned, Fox News. The big brush is always trying to be painted of a lazy black man that never wanted to do nothing and wants a handout. None of us, I can tell by the way we're talking, none of us comes from that kind of family. All of us come from, we all come from, whether they were together or whether they're not together, we come from black men and women who did what they had to do, bought into the whole pull up your bootstraps mentality, and they got screwed, and then they passed on that anger to us. Because I was talking to my mom this morning about my birth, the time of my birth and stuff like that. She said to me, the special thing about your birth was you were born the day after we first celebrated Black Solidarity Day. I said, really? She said, yes. She said, that's why you are the way you are. And I look at that because my father, ever since I was young, was transmitting that anger to me. My father looked at me when I was 8 years old, and he said to me, son, you're going to be a black man one day. He said, look at me. He said, I'm a nigger. I work for a living. But I don't want to have to say that to my son, and I don't want him to say that to his son. And that's my passion of being involved in black infrastructure. It's not only we need our own nation just because. It's because we get tired of the stress and the anxiety of dealing with the system of racism and white supremacy. So we decided that we don't want to deal with it anymore, whether this generation or the next generation. We want to try to eradicate this so that some black people don't have to go through the same stress and anger that we went through just trying to fulfill our dream in whatever field of work or whatever field of industry that we wanted to be a part of.
Yep.
Right.
And as an ambassador and a statesman and a diplomat, my job is to let continental Africans, diasporan Africans, and Africans here in America know that we have a mutual beneficial desire to get this thing done. It's like it's mutually beneficial to all parties involved.
Right. Yeah.
I think a good thing that's going to come from nation building and having a nation of our own is that right now, because we're in somebody else's nation, we're kind of confined to the idea that we can't do things the way we want to, or if things are not perfect, people come together and they want to, they debate and they have forums like this to make something, make a change happen, to do society or business differently. But I think we get the idea that it's not our nation, or we're part of somebody else's nation. So when we have those thoughts, we kind of just give them up. But if we have our own nation, when we have those kind of ideas and we're like, oh man, this isn't working right, it gives you that creative freedom to change things at will. So
right, you're right, brother. Yes, sir.
Yep.
It does, and you feel comfortable doing it because it's yours, and you're not afraid somebody's gonna knock your door down and basically haul you in on some trumped up charge. You know what I'm saying? You're gonna sit and rot in prison for 30, 40, 50 years. Because it's like, that's one of the things I'm hearing from some of the, basically the younger conscious brothers. When I look at YouTube videos or blog talk shows or whatever, they say, y'all scared. Y'all basically scared because they washed y'all up back in the day, in the civil rights era, and they did this to you and they did that to you. And I'm like, some of us are scared and some of us is not. But you can't lie that every time they release some dude from prison that's been in there for 30 to 40 to 50 years, who was a Black Panther back in the day, it sends shockwaves through everybody trying to do something.
Because it makes you evaluate. Like I said back in the day, I changed my strategy because I was one of those basically, when I was younger and everything like that. And I give credit to Mr. Farrakhan because I could, he always talked about that, violence ain't the way and stuff like that. So I listened to that, Because if I had not basically had those teachings of him, I would have been out there being like, yeah, we need to do this, do that. And I'm thinking to myself, my God, man, I could have went out there and talked about fight the police, remember that Ice-T, fuck the police and all that.
Yep.
So I couldn't wait to hear him. Now, Ice-T is on Law and Order, SVU, whatever, criminal intent, whatever, as a cop. I said to myself, when people follow, there was a dude that followed that ideology that ended up getting executed in Texas,
Right.
He was like, yeah, fuck the police. When a state trooper pulled over, he pulled a gun out, shot him, and killed him. And he ended up going to getting lethal injection. And I said to myself, so basically, if we're going to do the national thing, which I know it burns in my soul that this is the right thing to do, there has to be a better way. And then when you talk about nationhood and everything like that, I'm saying to myself, I'm looking at the political situation in America, right? America has not changed. You look at the Tea Party and everything like that. The reality is Black people have no real political representation in America. None whatsoever.
Right.
None whatsoever. All we could do is basically, we're like the people, hold the water, the house is flooded, and you're in that last room, and the water's about to bust down the door, and everybody's standing next to the door trying to hold the door up and everything like that. The water pressure keeps coming, And that's what Black America is with the political situation. We go out to vote just to hold back the inevitable of the Tea Party and the white racists, which is inevitably after Obama's gone and everything like that. And somehow white America, sort of loses interest just like they did after Reconstruction. Tea Party will sweep in, become the majority. And God, I'm telling you right now, this place is going to be a hell on earth.
Mm-hmm.
So enjoy the Obama and whatever you got right now because, my God, in a couple of years, white people are going to look at the situation like, we got gays, we got Hispanics taking over, we got blacks.
Everybody's agenda is being put before ours.
Right. And so the bottom line, when white people say they had enough, after everybody get all the benefits, the feminists got their benefits in the 70s, we get the tail end of the backlash. So everybody, we're like the big suckers in all this, Everybody, we fight for everybody else's agenda, and when they get what they want to get and everything like that, and they just move on and quiet and everything, we're still stuck paying the bill. We're like the sucker who get invited to the party but don't get to eat a party, but we get to clean up afterwards.
And if anybody peeped that whole Trayvon Martin situation, I heard gays, I heard liberals, I heard conservatives, I heard anarchists, I heard any other political ideology you can think of, lesbians, women, everybody thought that Trayvon Martin was a thug.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's the thing about it. And I'm saying to myself, and then not only that, look at New York City, this motorcycle incident. Come to find out, like I was saying on the prom show the other night, I said, wait a minute here. First of all, you're talking about New Rochelle, Queens. That's so ghetto. That's where I'm from.
Nope.
You know,
nope.
Rochdale, not Rochelle, Rochdale. I said, that's where I'm from. You know, you see some of the houses out in Rochdale, you would think you were in wintertime, that place was beautiful. You know, the brick homes and everything out there in Rochdale. You know, and they got, and just like anybody else, they're working class area, middle class, some upper class. Some people got money, some people working class, some people hustling. To be honest with you, you know. But the bottom line is, why do they make it seem like it was a bunch of freaking ghetto people coming out to terrorize? You know, since when the ghetto people got $7,000-8,000 bikes cruising and got time on their hands like that? And so,
America.
And I'm saying, you know, the black biker culture is part of middle black America, just like white biker culture is. You know,
right?
But they basically came out there, and suddenly they started slandering all black. Oh, look, the Bill O'Reilly. Look at the black. This is a core value. They come find out the guy ran over the dude. You know, and the dude, it's an incident of road rage. Unfortunate incident of road rage. Get over it. You know. That's the stuff that happens. Oh, look, they're terrorizing us. And this is what we're up against. You know, and we can't do anything. As soon as somebody black does something, we're all guilty.
Yep.
Yeah, bro. And
you
know what?
And think about New York City, you had liberal whites saying that. Liberal whites, yeah, you know.
I had liberal white folks telling me how beautiful New York is and what a great job Bloomberg and Giuliani have done. I'm like, oh, well, I'm glad that you're very comfortable in a situation where I can go out and get killed. Yeah, you don't have to worry about that, but I'm glad your comfort level is okay, but every other black person has got to watch their back.
And most liberal white people supported the stop and frisk.
Of course. Because they don't have to worry about being stopped and frisked.
Yeah, I was down there, I want to say last month, because my grandmother passed away, and I had to go to work. Incidentally, I'm going to be down there Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, brother, so I would like to meet you in person, if I could. But either way, I was getting up out of there because my brother lives over on Lincoln Place. And I was getting up out of there, so I'm riding down the block, you know what I'm saying, getting ready to get on the highway. And sure enough, I saw a stop and frisk. You know, I saw it, and I said to myself, this is not an internet reality for me anymore. Like I've seen in two different instances on two different sides of the block, I've seen a stop and frisk. And I was getting ready to raise my camera, like my telephone and, you know, my cell phone and take a picture of it. But I was like, man, what's going to happen to me if I take this picture? So, you know, it's like...
Brother, I've gone into a movie theater. Me and my friends have gone into a movie theater, and they'll stop us to check our bags. Like it's a man that, you know, like where they check the bags going into the theater. So I'll let them check the bag, and then what I'll do is I'll step to the side and see how many other bags they check.
Yeah, exactly.
No other person gets checked except me and my boy get checked. See, this is the kind of crap that I'm saying. This is why, like, I feel that this is a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer that we have to acknowledge ourselves as African people and unite globally with each other and realize that what affects one affects the rest.
Right.
We can't just sit here and act like it's some special, because, like you said, when these people die, when the Sean Bells and the Oscar Grants and the Trayvon Martins get killed, nobody is asking if you part Cherokee. Well, I wonder if he's from the Wichita. You know, is he a Moor? Nobody's asking that bull crap.
Hey. Everybody acts how they act because they automatically assume, because they know or perceive you as black or African. So
that's
That's how everybody's acting.
And African only becomes vague and ambiguous when the talk turns to power, and I hate that.
Yeah.
It kills me because any other time it's like, well, what is black? Well, what is black? What's African? Well, you know what African and what black is when it comes to oppression. When it comes to killing us, when it comes to discriminating against us, you know exactly what black and African is with pinpoint accuracy. But the moment we start talking about nationhood and power, now all of a sudden black and African becomes some ambiguous thing.
Suddenly we don't exist anymore. Suddenly we're all humans. We're all African. Like Bill Maher had a shirt on. We are all Africans. You know.
Yeah, sure we are.
Okay. Yeah, we're all Africans when it comes
until that police pull that gun out.
Yeah.
Then you Caucasian.
Yeah, or look how with Rwanda. Remember Rwanda? They took all the Caucasians out of Rwanda. You know, if you were black, no matter what your nationality, they left you behind. Why? He said the only people that were taken out, the UN was taken out, was people who had white skin. It was simply that. You could be a Rwandan who was just visiting there, who lived outside of Rwanda your whole life, whatever. But if you had black skin or whatever, they figured you was indigenous, whatever like that. Even some people that weren't even Rwandan, that were people from other countries, they were just left there. You know, only white people with white skin were pulled out of the situation. And the people got out, their lives were spared, you know, because they were under UN protection. The UN didn't protect any non-white people.
There you go.
I mean, any non-white people. And,
there you go.
People,
so they can play that game with somebody else. I'm too hip to that bull crap.
And so the bottom line, this is why they don't want African Americans' ideology, what they call poisoning Africa. They call it poisoning Africa. I had a white guy tell me this. You know, this white guy, as soon as I go to Liberia, I'm going to freaking throw him out. You know, he's in Liberia causing trouble. He always talks about the African American settlers. And he basically, I invited him in my group one night. He get in there. He didn't say one single word. But yeah, he was on this thing. He was like telling me, he said, yeah, that collar man needs to butt out of Liberia. He should stay in America. I'm like, you a freaking white Swedish guy, probably having sex with a little underage Liberian girl, telling me that I should have no business talking about a country. Not only did my ancestors come from originally, but that ancestors created. There would be no Liberia if it wasn't for African Americans, you know. And that's why you're gonna tell me that, yeah, but this is, you know. So they basically go over there and they play the tribalism up, and they basically, yeah, I like the indigenous culture and all this kind of stuff like that. I said, look, we're trying to make them into an African people. You know, when you start thinking of yourself as an African or part of the global African thing, you stop thinking of yourself as a Kron or Mandingo or Yoruba and all this other stuff like that in a political sense. You know, white people.
Yeah, it's like similar to like I'm from New York, so I'm a New Yorker because I live in New York, but I'm in America. It's like I've never seen anybody who says, well, I'm from Pittsburgh. I ain't no American.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, so if you come from Nigeria, fine. If you come from Ghana, fine. But you got to acknowledge yourself as African from the continent. That's where you come from, the motherland.
And that is what Kwame Nkrumah was trying to do. You know, and they saw how they ran him out of power, you know? And they didn't understand that the Ghanaians now want to put statues up for him. But, yeah, well, back in the 70s when y'all ran him out of power and whatnot, you know, it's too late now. Y'all sent the man into exile, you know, because he was talking about bringing African Americans over, bringing Tanzanians, doing skills, all the stuff Malcolm X was talking about. He said, what are you talking? You crazy? You bringing Nigerians to my country? You bringing Congolese to the country and whatnot? What are you talking about? You know, his Pan-Africanism has not set into Africa yet.
And isn't that crazy? Isn't that crazy that you can't unite with other Africans, no matter what country they're from, but yet you want me to push integration with white folks, with Europeans?
Oh,
that's some dysfunctional shit to me.
White people do not have to go through all the to get into Africa, or European does not have to go through all the checkpoints and background stuff like that they do with other Africans. In other Africans, you cannot get a visa if you're in Nigeria and you go to Ghana and whatnot. You can't get a visa inside of Ghana. You got to go back to your home country and apply for it and wait. You know, there's no free travel. There's almost no Africa to Africa trade. You know, Europeans still dominate Africa's trade. And this is the things we're going to stop, you know. Our presence there, our culture, and just our ideology, and when we basically that's why we said, I told my brother the other night, I said, Brother John Sinclair, Black Wall Street, I said, my goal is to have a base of operations on the continent next year, you know, a base of operations to grow, you know, and then once we have a base of operations, then we can expand, you know, because I want to have these conversations in African circles on the continent, you know. And then once it spreads, it's sort of like a virus. You know, once you plant something like a virus, it spreads and it affects and it keeps spreading. That's what a virus does. You know, it duplicates, it replicates, it keeps spreading, and it affects everything around it. That's what these talking points are, like a virus. You know, we're trying to get these talking points like a virus out there that's going to affect it, and it's only going to affect Africa to build it, because when they see what's going on, they're like, well, geez, you know, these guys are right. So, you know, we just have to be on our P's and Q's and basically bring something solid to the table, you know, and we can do this thing. And like I said, the ultimate goal should be yes, we are coming home, you know, because like I said, there's no future to reach our full potential in America. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. White people are never going to share this country with black people. They'll let Hispanics in. They'll let Asians in. They'll tolerate gays. They'll tolerate AIDS. They'll tolerate, the funny thing is, look how tolerant they are of Muslims. There's a guy marching for Muslims to do a $1 Million Man March in Washington. White people to this day have hostility that we marched on Washington in 1995. So this tells you that, yes, they'll accept Muslims, and all because what we look like. When they see the African face, and that's the thing about African Americans from Africans away. Africans think they can use their culture and their history and who they are, they're proud of where they are, and that can win white America over. And they say, we don't understand, and we tell them, okay, in the long run, if they know you, they say, okay, you're Nigerian, you have no hostility towards us because you weren't a slave, this, that, and the other, and they're a little at ease. But when they first look at you, and they see you walking down the street and everything, they see a black person.
Yeah, that same thing.
Until you basically experience that, and is that your reality, then because the brothers that I deal with from Liberia and everything, they've experienced racism. They've been here for a while. They experience racism. Once they lose their accent and stuff like that, and they start dressing like us and talk like this, they lose their stuff like that. They're on our side with that.
Sure.
But so that's why we have to build with these type of brothers. And those type of brothers we have to send back to the continent to be our allies and partners.
Well, listen, brothers, we are about out of time, and so I'm going to close the show out, and I guess we'll reconvene probably sometime next week. We're supposed to have a show on Wednesday, though, right?
Yes.
Yes.
I'll be here.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm gonna fish around in the group and see what other topics that we brought up, because I know we covered this one. This was one that was suggested. I think the other one, Brother Holub, was you did not want to do America 2.0. I think that was the title of another show.
Yeah, I have to look for that exact topic. I know what you're talking about, but it was something to that effect, like
I'll find
we don't want to
you
establish.
posted it on my timeline.
Yeah, we don't want to establish.
I got one, brother. I got one. The name of the new nation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a good one too.
You can do that.
The name of the new nation. Just throw some ideas out there. The name.
Okay.
Of the
Well,
name.
I'll shoot for next Saturday at 9:00 for that one then.
All right.
Sounds good to me. I'll be here.
Okay, brother. I'm serious. I'm gonna be in
brother.
Brooklyn Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. So I'm gonna hit you
up.
You
said you was at Lincoln Place?
Yeah, my brother lives in. Yeah. Yes.
Do you realize how close you are to me? It's like.
Nah. My grandmother owned the building. She passed away, but she owned the building on 433 Lincoln Place, and now it's being run by my brother and my aunt. So when I go there, either I stay at 433 Lincoln Place or I stay at my aunt's house on Rutland Road in Flatbush.
I'm gonna send you my telephone number.
Okay.
Definitely.
Okay.
If you don't already have it, but I'll send it to you by PM on Facebook.
Okay. Yes, sir.
All right.
Okay.
All right. Peace, brothers.
All right, brother. I'll do it, brothers. Peace.
Yes, sir. Thanks for coming through, brothers. Assalamu alaikum.